morning, I received the following comment. Is it too late to start revision in January for the whole of biology? I don't know if I should redo the notes on the topics I don't understand / I've forgotten. I think when I first read this comment, I thought that it was a joke. And it may still be a joke, I don't know. But then I kind of thought back to times where I've been in that situation where I literally have like 1 month to revise for a module. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to make this last minute revision video. So if you guys have got any sort of exams coming up, whether it's A-levels or university or whatever other kind of exam, then I want to share with you some actual practical advice, and I'll try and make this video as quick as possible because, let's be honest, you probably don't have time to be sitting and scrolling through endless amounts of YouTube. Although previous Atousa, who would have found herself in a situation like this, would probably disagree. So without further ado, let's get into some of the tips. Also, I'm keeping my laptop here just because I've got the notes on here. So the first thing, and I think is one of the most important things, is figure out exactly, like to the hour, how long you've got so that you can try and maximize that time to the best of your ability. Depending on whether you have 2 days until your exam or 2 weeks, you can kind of come up with different strategies on how to do this. So something I like to do, because I'm quite a visual person, is to print off a template for a calendar, write down exactly the day that I have the exam and the time, and then almost work backwards and fill in the gaps with what I can do in the time that I have remaining. And don't be tempted to spend a lot of time on this, because I know it can be so easy to get out colourful pens and try to make it look pretty. This is practical. A simple template will do. In terms of the actual revision that you want to plan into your diary, I think it's really important to try and be strategic here. And what I mean by that is that realistically you have to gauge how much content you have to learn and how much of it you can learn within this timeline. So just as an example, if you have 5 modules to learn, but realistically you think you can only learn 3, then maybe you should just focus on learning those 3 really well. Another thing that I think is really crucial in order to be able to get the most out of the time you have left is when you do this planning, make sure that you have at least an hour of doing something you like scheduled in. I think this is because it's kind of a marathon, not a race kind of situation, even though your time is limited. Because let's say even if you have 3 days left, you don't want to fully burn yourself out. Try and go in with a calmer attitude, and scheduling a little breaks can be really helpful. Point number 2 is focus on your strengths. Now this does tie in a little bit with what I just said about, for example, if you have 5 modules, maybe just focus on 3 and try and focus on the ones that you're the strongest at. It may sound a little bit counterintuitive because you might think that you want to spend the last however many days working on the things that you aren't so strong at. But I would personally say that once you have established how long you've got left and you've come up with somewhat of a plan of what you want to do, I would say focus on your strengths and make sure that you know them well and that you're comfortable in those things and confident before moving on to less strong areas. And I'm sure different people will have different opinions on the matter, but I tend to think that it's better to have very specified knowledge of a few areas rather than very surface knowledge level of or surface level knowledge of what did I just say? Surface level knowledge of lots of things, because if you get a really detailed question, then you may have a panic and not be able to answer any of it. Number 3 is spend this time testing yourself and recalling the information you know, even if it's very little. Many studies have found out the importance of recalling when it comes to learning effectively. And Ali Abdar on YouTube has actually made a really good video about that, so I will link that below. And on top of that, I've also made a few other revision videos talking about how to use recall in order to get the best out of your studying. But again, a cautionary word, if you don't feel like it's absolutely necessary to watch those videos, don't. Just get yourself some flashcards or get started with some past papers and just test what you know. And don't worry if you can literally answer like 2 questions. Answer those 2 and then build on it from there. People often ask me if it's useful to read notes or rewrite notes at this point when you have a limited time left. And honestly, I would say no, and I would say no because of the research that's done and also because of my own experience. I also would used to do this, and I would read and rewrite notes before the exams, and it didn't work that effectively for me, and it might for you, but personally I didn't find it that useful. Number 4 is write a hierarchy of what you have to remember. So obviously with any topic you will have the bigger picture, you will have some big details, and then you will have all of the fine little details at the bottom. The way I would recommend going about your topic, especially if you've got a short amount of time left, is literally for all of your topics, making these kind of charts, and I'll insert a picture because I think you'll be able to explain what I mean a bit better. But essentially for all of your topics, or all of the ones that you have scheduled in to learn, you can say big picture, some of the bigger details, and then the finer details. And as long as you've got an understanding of those things in the back of your head, then if you do get a question, the only thing you have to do is sort of apply those things and talk and discuss around it. Number 5 is find some sort of way to endure long working hours. This is a bit of a tough one because I know that it can be very difficult to maintain your attention span for a long time. As I mentioned, I think one of the most important things is to schedule in breaks that you find enjoyable, but also, I think there are a number of things that you can do. So personally for me, I know that if I sit any longer than 40 to 45 minutes, that I will start getting really fidgety. So I set my timer for around 40 minutes, and then I have a 5 to 10 minute break where I listen to a song, I grab myself a drink, I have a doodle sketchbook, so I might doodle something in that, and then get back to it and do another 40 minutes. And I've found that this helps me go on for a lot longer, that rather than just saying, right, I'm gonna sit here for 4 hours and not move, because when you do that, you'll pick up your phone, check Facebook, or you will send a text. So this would be my recommendation. Find out how long you can study for. You may be able to sit and study for 3 hours, or you might be able to only study for 30 minutes, in which case set your timer for that. Again, I also have a video linked below about how to study without getting bored, but as I've been saying, only watch that if you think it's going to be useful and if you have the time. Number 6, and I think this is a super useful one, is study out loud. I know it's very easy, especially when you're trying to squeeze in a lot of work last minute, to kind of hide yourself away in a room and just read, or like write, or like do loads of exams. And I think it's quite good to just maybe read out loud or ask yourself questions and answer them out loud. I think it's a different way of engaging your brain, and for example, if you do have a family member or a partner or a friend who can almost be there with you, the social aspect of it, given that you are a social learner, might actually be very beneficial, and that you can remember some of those things better. Number 8 is have an understanding that there's going to be a point where, due to your limited time, you're not going to get any better, and the more you force yourself, you're going to decline. And what I mean by that is, let's say you have 2 days left. Realistically, I don't think there is any value to doing like crazy all-nighters and drinking loads of coffee, because after a certain point, the information won't go in, but you're still wearing your body out, you're making yourself tired and stressed, and ultimately that will have an impact on how you do in the exam. So perhaps, let's say you only have 1 day left and you realistically don't think that you can get any more done, and that's for you to judge. You may say, well, do you know what, actually, I'm going to spend this day with my family, or I'm going to spend this day just reading a book to myself and at least getting myself in the right mindset and just doing the best that I can, whatever that may be. So something else that I would recommend, which isn't a technical point, but I thought it might be a fun thing to do anyway, is if you do have some exams in January or coming up anytime whenever you're watching this video, leave a comment down below letting us know what exams you're doing and how you feel about it. Also, like this video if you found this useful and you have found something of value from my experience. And also subscribe for more videos like this. I wish you all the very best of luck in your exams. I know how stressful it can be, but guys, you got this. Take care, and I will see you in the next one.